Gitche Manitou, Audiobook, Chapter 3, Smoke and Mirrors.
Magdalena.
Carmen's voice rang out from outside my door, sounding uncharacteristically chipper. It was strange, really. Carmen was never this. Cheery. Groggily, I blinked at the clock on my nightstand. It was almost noon. Great. I had slept in again. Yes? I called back, my voice thick with sleep, struggling to shake off the fog clouding my mind.
Mrs. Galindo is here to speak with you. Please get dressed and come down, mija.
Carmen's use of the word mija made me cringe. It meant daughter in Spanish, but I was anything but her daughter. Hell, I wasn't even one of her favorite foster kids. Okay, I replied, flat and emotionless. Mrs. Galindo was my social worker. She'd been in my life for as long as I could remember, a constant figure through all the bouncing around between foster homes. She was nice enough, sweet even, but strict. She oversaw everything. My health appointments, my therapy, the mess with the law after I'd been caught tagging old buildings. It was her who had made sure I went to therapy, and it was there that they labeled me bipolar. Just another thing to deal with, right? She took care of it all, managing my prescriptions like a warden. Since I was 13, she'd personally pick them up and hand them to Carmen to make sure I took them daily. And I did, even though I never felt like they actually did anything. I was still the same rebellious girl, just better at hiding it. Damn adults, I sighed and rolled out of bed, throwing on my favorite old pair of jeans and a red Motley Crue t-shirt I'd had since I was 12. I didn't even listen to them anymore, but the shirt fit snug in all the right places. Good enough. I clomped downstairs, my feet heavy with dread. Carmen and Mrs. Galindo were sitting together on the couch. Carmen smiling in a way that made my stomach turn. Why was she so happy? She usually hated seeing me. The memory of last night's slap resurfaced, hot and sharp, and my face twisted into a scowl. Carmen ignored it, of course. That was her way.
Sit down, mija,
Carmen said, motioning to the chair next to her. I hesitated, glancing warily at Mrs. Galindo. Something was off. Was this about another home? My mind raced back to last night, struggling to piece together the blurred fragments of hearing a voice and losing control. I barely remembered the details after that. I recalled the slap, but then nothing. Had Carmen called her? Was this it? Was I being shipped off again?
Magdalena, how are you feeling?
Mrs. Galindo's voice snapped me back. Feeling? What kind of question was that? What did she think I was? Pregnant?
Are you still taking your medication?
She asked, barely waiting for me to process the first question.
Yes, she is, Mrs. Galindo.
Carmen jumped in eagerly, her voice saccharine.
If you don't mind, Carmen,
interrupted Mrs. Galindo, her voice calm but firm.
I need to hear it from Magdalena herself.
Oh, of course,
Carmen muttered, throwing me a stern smirk. There she is, I thought bitterly. I shrugged. Yeah, I'm taking them. I feel fine. I muttered, my voice casual, masking the lie beneath it.
The reason I'm here is that your labs from last month came back with substantially low lithium levels, and I'm concerned for your mental health.
Mrs. Galindo's words were careful, but they hit like a stone dropping into my stomach. My lithium levels? I repeated, my mind scrambling. Low? They'd always been perfect according to my doctor. I've been taking them normally and I feel fine. Another lie. The truth was, my mind was unraveling, the voice from last night, the feelings of mania creeping in. I fidgeted with a small hole in the knee of my jeans, trying to hold it together. I mean, I did take my medicine when I remembered to.
No manic phases? Hallucinations?
Her gaze sharpened, cutting through my attempts to downplay it. I stopped fiddling and folded my hands in my lap, the memories of last night creeping back, the voice, the howl, the vampire in the park. Was it all in my head? Had I imagined everything? Was Luz, the voice I'd heard, just a figment of my fractured mind? Well, Dot. First, I hesitated. I've had trouble sleeping. Another lie, but safer than confessing the truth. I didn't want to go back to the nut house. Lately, all I ever wanted to do was sleep.
Well,
Mrs. Galindo clapped her hands together, startling me.
it's a good thing I'm here. I've made an appointment with Dr. Shrew and will probably have to adjust your dosage.
She exchanged a smile with Carmen, and I could practically feel the tension between them. A silent agreement passed in front of me like I wasn't even there. Oh, Dot. Okay, I mumbled, the weight of it all sinking in. I hated the medication, hated how it felt like chains holding me down. I don't feel like it does anything to my mind, but physically it felt like I was carrying bags of bricks everywhere I went. Even if it didn't seem to change anything, it was still a constant reminder that something was wrong with me.
And don't worry.
Mrs. Galindo turned back to Carmen.
As I said, this will all be covered by state funds. Because of the change in medication, your foster care rate will go up substantially due to the level of care she requires.
She paused, then looked at me.
And Magdalena, this means you'll be able to stay with Mrs. Cruz until the age of 21, at which point another evaluation will take place. Mrs. Cruz has already agreed. Do you?
Oh, she means for me to stay here? Until 21? Carmen was grouchy, sure, but she mostly left me alone as long as I kept the kitchen clean and stayed out of trouble. I glanced at the 3 other foster kids she had who were watching cartoons in the adjacent living room. All younger than me, kids I considered my siblings. It wasn't like I had anywhere else to go. Sure, I muttered, feeling detached from the entire conversation. Agreeing was easier than fighting, and self-preservation was the name of the game until I could figure out how to break free.
Oh, yay.
Carmen exclaimed, her cheerfulness now making perfect sense. The extra money had her giddy. Of course. That's all she ever really cared about. I shot her a sidelong glance, watching the greed flicker in her eyes. It would have been nice if I could get a slice of that state money, I thought bitterly. We left for Dr. Shrew's office in Mrs. Galindo's old 70s Impala. The chipped paint and sun-bleached roof gave it an air of neglect, but the inside was surprisingly well kept. I found myself imagining what it'd be like to drive a car someday. Only mine would be all black, of course. As we pulled into the tiny office parking lot and entered the lab, I situated myself in the same old familiar plastic seat where I always got my blood drawn. Then the voice returned.
Be careful with her.
I jolted in my seat, nearly jumping out of my skin before the tech came at me with the needle to draw blood. I forced a laugh to cover my shock. Oh, I'm just afraid of needles, I lied, watching her stick me. I was suddenly feeling ashamed of all the lies I told recently. It's not like me. I usually don't care what people think, but these days, secrecy seems a better tactic until I figure out what's going on.
Mags, since when?
She giggled, knowing I'd been coming here for years. The voice, Luz, the same one from last night, pulsed in my mind again, and I needed answers. Be careful with who, I thought to myself. The tech?
With Mrs. Galindo,
Luce whispered, her presence like a warning bell ringing faintly in the distance. Bipolar or not, something wasn't right, and for the first time in a long while, I wondered if it was the meds, the diagnosis, or maybe something much bigger. I jumped again as the voice repeated itself, though it was softer this time, more like a whisper sliding through my mind.
Just watch her.
It said. My heart thudded against my ribs, the tension in my body coiling tighter. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want this strange voice in my head, especially not in public. I hummed under my breath, hoping to drown it out, anything to make it stop. But then, the voice left as quickly as it came. I exhaled slowly, trying to concentrate on my breathing. My body instinctively softened, and before I knew it, a low, guttural growl slipped out from deep inside me.
Oh shit!
Gabby, the lab tech, exclaimed, nearly dropping the needle she had just drawn blood with. Her eyes widened in surprise.
Oh, I'm sorry, you just scared me.
I blinked, startled by her reaction. Oh, it was just my stomach growling. I'm starving, I said quickly, my voice softer than usual, trying to make myself seem small and harmless to not arouse suspicion, and less like the stick of dynamite I felt like inside. It was an involuntary reaction, this growl. Gabby seemed to buy it, though her hands still trembled slightly as she cleaned up.
Well, I'm done anyway. You can go back to the waiting room,
she muttered hastily before she hurried out. As she left, I noticed a faint musk lingering in the air, the smell of sweat and fear. Did I really scare her that much? And since when were smells so tangible? I waved my arm in the air as if I could move it out of the way before I passed through it on the way to the lobby. I wasn't feeling well. My skin felt too hot, my body weak, and my nerves frayed like a live wire. Maybe I'm just tired, I thought. Maybe it's all in my head. Or maybe this was my first taste of a hangover. The rest of the doctor's appointment passed in a blur. Dr. Shrew adjusted my lithium dose, gave me a hefty loading dose on the spot, and sent me on my way.
You don't look too well,
Mrs. Galindo said, once they'd returned to the car. Have you eaten? No, I had just woke up when you came, I said. Well, let's pass through and get you something to eat, she said, pulling out her wallet and handing me a black card. I looked at her cautiously. What's this? I asked. The state is also giving you some spending money to help you along while you adjust into adulthood, she said nonchalantly. Confused, I just sat there looking at her. It's part of a new program we are testing. It's not really safe to be babysitting on this much lithium, especially if it's not therapeutic yet. It's not safe to be out working irregardless. The state can get in trouble if anything goes awry. It's not much. Just $1,000 a month to pay for necessities, she said, putting her wallet away. It's a type of disability, and no more working until cleared. You got that? I gasped. I would have been insulted by the term disability if she hadn't followed with the numbers. $1,000? I asked, looking at the card in my hands with my name pressed into it. I had no idea I was worth this much to the state. Did she mean my tribe? Was this tribal money? I am 18 now. What tribe did I belong to? I really wanted to know, but the card was blank. Well, I didn't question it. I didn't even have a wallet to put it in, but quickly I placed it in my purse pocket, safely tucked away. Thanks, I said, still wondering if the money was coming from the state or my tribe. Why would she keep this a secret? Was she afraid that I'd run away to meet them? Well, hell yes, I would.
I didn't want to tell you in front of Carmen. I suspect that she might ask for money from you if she knew you had that card. Keep this card and money to yourself. So many bad people out here want to exploit our youth. There is back pay on there from when you turned 18, so it's nice and full,"
she said, holding her finger over her mouth in a hush-hush gesture. We pulled away from the drive-through of a Jack in the Box with 4 jumbo jacks inside my paper bag, which, to my surprise, I wolfed down rather quickly.
"Yes, until you're 21 years old. I'd try not to lose that card if I were you, kiddo,"
she said with a smile. "Oh, I won't," I said, shaking my head. "So tell me, Carmen, is this tribal money and what is my tribe?" She just eye-rolled at me.
"I have nothing to do with your tribe. Like I've said a million times, just be happy with this,"
she said, looking into my eyes, and I didn't push it further.
"The extra dose of lithium might make you a bit sleepy. Go home and get some rest,"
Mrs. Galindo muttered, but I hardly heard her words. I was still too phased and excited to finally have some income. I stood in Carmen's driveway and waved as she drove off. But despite all my excitement, I must have dozed off as soon as I got to my bed, because the next thing I knew, I was waking up in a dark room. I blinked, groggily, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The clock read past midnight. My stomach growled loudly, a sharp pang of hunger twisting through me. Starving. Still? "You had 4 jumbo jacks, Mags," I said to myself. I slipped out of bed, careful to avoid the 3rd step on the stairs, the one that always squeaked, and made my way to the kitchen. I threw together a sandwich and devoured it in seconds, but the hunger didn't subside. I made another, gobbling it down just as quickly, still hungry. Desperate, I gulped down 2 large glasses of milk, hoping that would fill the void gnawing at me. Sitting at the dinette table, I finally caught a glimpse of my reflection in the sliding glass door. I froze. The pale face staring back at me wasn't mine, or at least, it didn't look like me. My skin was practically translucent, much lighter than usual. Am I sick? I wondered, my stomach knotting with unease, but I couldn't sit still. I needed to clear my head. Maybe some fresh air would help. Grabbing my bike from the garage, I slipped out the house and into the cool night, the quiet streets illuminated by the soft glow of the swollen moon. The stars twinkled brightly above, and as I rode down the familiar streets, I started to feel the tension ebb away. The heat that had weighed me down earlier lifted, replaced by a sense of clarity. My nerves, once on edge, settled into a strange kind of numbness and then contentment. Everything felt clear, more vivid than usual. The moon wasn't full like it had been the night before, but it was still bright, casting a soft cascade of light over everything. Usually, I never had a plan when I snuck out for a late-night joyride, but tonight I knew exactly where I was going. Buckland Park. I pedaled down the trail, the peaceful night wrapping around me like a comforting blanket. The eerie silence and strange smells from the night before were gone. The park felt almost serene, normal. But as I approached the tree, his tree, my heart began to race again. To my amazement, the broken tree branch was still there, lying on the ground, just as it had been. Slightly wilted by the heat of the sun that day, but otherwise unchanged. I got off my bike and cautiously walked toward it. I knelt, daring myself to touch it, to see if it was really there, if this wasn't just some leftover hallucination. After a few moments of hesitation, I reached out and plucked a few eucalyptus leaves from the branch. I crushed them between my fingers and brought them to my nose. The sharp, familiar scent hit me. They were real. I stuffed a few more leaves into my pocket. I had always collected flowers and leaves, pressing them between the pages of old school books under my bed. Later, I'd incorporate them into my watercolor paintings to add texture. I wasn't great at painting, but it was something that had stuck with me from art class, a small creative outlet. These leaves, though, they were different, special. I might not use them in a painting. I just wanted to hold on to them